Hi everybody, and welcome to another episode of Coffee With. I'm your host, Christopher Evans. Today on Coffee With, we're thrilled to welcome Ron Alvarado, president of Novus Staffing. How are you, Ron?
I'm doing great, Christopher. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Well, it's exciting to have you on the show.
Thank you.
So Novus does, as the name implies, staffing.
Correct.
Permanent placements as well as
well, we
temporary?
do both full-time placements and temporary staffing. We focus primarily on administrative support personnel, accounting and finance professionals, customer support personnel.
How'd you get started in the staffing industry?
Pretty interesting. This is my 32nd year in staffing. Yeah, I started when I was 5. But no, I started back in New York City as a fluke. I was working on Long Island, New York. My car broke down. I needed a job, didn't have a car, so I had to go into New York City to work. And I just came upon a classified ad for an outside salesperson in staffing. It happened to be one of the largest staffing companies in the world at the time. I'd never heard of them, didn't know what staffing was. That was in 1984. And over the course of the ensuing 3 decades, I've held various positions in the industry, including in Pittsburgh. I was the regional president for one of the large national companies. So in 2005, my position was eliminated, and I wound up going to work for a startup organization. It was and actually we did international staffing programs for the Fortune 1000. We were putting together alternative staffing programs for these companies, and after my non-compete expired, 2008 came around. I've been talking to one of my friends, a good friend of mine, and said, you got to go into business on your own. And so we came up with the business plan for Novus Group, Novus Staffing being the first vertical launched under the firm. We launched the business on November 10th, 2008. And I have headlines: during the height of the economic tsunami, we start this company. And focused on specific niche market segments, including mortgage servicing. So we were able to really grow our company, doing staffing horizontally, but focusing on this one niche. And then we got into oil and gas as a fluke, right? We kept hearing about Marcellus Shale. So by 2012, we were ranked the 5th fastest growing privately owned company in Pittsburgh.
That's great.
Yeah.
When you look back at your career, what do you think prepared you most to be a first-time CEO?
I started working very early in my life. So I grew up in New York City. I grew up between Harlem and Spanish Harlem. So there's a little void there. And I started working at a young age in a dry cleaning store. And I just developed an acumen for service, making sure that I knew the customers, was dedicated to the business, just had this real sense of responsibility. And then I also saw some of our customers that used to come into the store dressed well, and I said, gee, I don't know what I'm going to do in my career, but I'm going to dress like those guys. And I'm going to carry that kind of briefcase. So not long afterwards, when I got into the staffing industry, I ascended very quickly into managerial roles, and then both regional roles, and then national roles, and through the executive ranks. So I think learned a lot of lessons, but it's always focusing on people and the customer, trying to understand what the demand is, what the need is, and then making sure we work creatively with those candidates. So at the end of the day, we're creating opportunities for people, and there's nothing better than that when you can take someone who's looking for a job and finding an opportunity. I'll give you a perfect example of that. I'm working with a young man who I met 2 weeks ago. His name is Guillermo, and he is a CMU grad from Mexico. So he's got a master's degree in information systems from CMU. He studied at Stanford. He's got 2 other master's degrees from some of the best colleges, universities in Mexico, worked internationally, and he's got to leave. It's going to be one of those old stories. We train the best and brightest in the world, and then we export them. And I'm committed to making a difference. After meeting this young man and someone else, I'm like, we got to stop this. Why can't this person find work? And so I've taken it on myself. He's got 15 days from today, because he's on a visa. So I have 15 days to find him a job, and I'm working, and I think we're going to do it.
Well, good luck to
you. Yeah, thank you.
You and to Guillermo on that. let's talk about skill sets for a moment. I'm sure a lot of the folks in our audience, especially those who are looking for upward mobility, and let's face it, who isn't, are probably wondering with the uncertainty that we've had the past couple of years in the market, what are the hot skills that are really in demand now? If you were a graduating senior in high school, what would you recommend looking into?
Outside of technology in general, so as I mentioned, we've done a lot of work in mortgage and mortgage servicing, and so we see a lot of opportunities at all levels in that industry, from title examiners to closing coordinators to underwriters. That's a hot skill set and commodity now in this marketplace. Healthcare, obviously healthcare will continue to grow. So I think anything technology based, I think what I would recommend to young people is to stay away from the arts and humanities. They're great to know, but you need a specific skill set coming out in terms of going into the job market. An accounting degree, a finance degree, a technology degree, an engineering degree, as opposed to a liberal arts degree.
Yeah. Has social media changed the way you look at the candidate evaluation process at all?
Social media has changed the way we look for candidates, particularly, and but not necessarily how we look at candidates. Technically, we have to be careful how we use those platforms to assess potential applicants. But we used social media very effectively to identify talent, to maintain passive relationships with those candidates, so that when they're looking to make a job change, they know us and we know them. And there's a lot of work that we have to do on technology, on social media. I'm looking at doing some blogs now in certain areas so that we become the expert or go-to. So how do you stay relevant and involved and engaged in social media?
If you were to be on the other side of our camera, an audience member who's thinking about making a move away from a company and starting their own business, like you did, what's one piece of advice you'd hand them? So
here's the lessons that I've learned. The first thing I would do is, if you're going to affiliate yourself with board members or folks that are going to be investors in your company, I would suggest that they bring not only financial support, but also the content expertise, maybe in the industry, some strategic assistance as well. So not just the cash, but also, being able to help on a content industry level. You want to make sure that that I was just asked this question and I had to think about it before I answered. Now, I've been in business 8 years as an entrepreneur, and the question was, what business are you in, Ron? I said, well, I supply staff, I do talent planning, etc. I said, no, you're in the business of making money.
Yeah, that's it.
And I'm like, you're right. So we've been able to create a really powerful infrastructure, our process and service delivery systems, and that's basically that's the basis to build any business. Is that you have to look at it as a third party, very objective, inanimate object. So this is a machine that's going to, at the end of the day, produce cash. So how do you refine that machine so that you're making a lot of cash? That's great. If that makes sense.
It certainly does. So Ron, if our viewers would like to learn a little bit more about Novus Staffing, where would you send them?
Well, visit our website at www.novusstaffing.com. That's N-O-V as in Victor, U-S, staffing.com, or Novus Staffing Jobs to take a look at our current positions. And we have dozens of openings. We're looking for qualified talent, so anyone that's in the job market, please visit us.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
My pleasure, Christopher.
Sharing your expertise with us. I think it's been a great learning experience for a lot of us. And
thank you.
Wish you all the best and continued success.
Thank you so much.
And as always, we thank you for joining us on Coffee With.